I'm Laika Midi Guzman from Bised English Block B. And for today's, we will tackle about the population and sampling or sampling techniques together with Miss Rose Ann Calusin. First is population. So population is the entire group that we can draw our conclusions about. The next is sampling. So, what is sampling? Sampling is the specific group that you will collect data from. So, the size of the sample is always less than the total size of the population. In research, a population doesn't always refer to people. It can mean a group containing elements of anything you want to study, such as objects, events, organization, countries, species, organization, and etc. So, it is not about a person who you need to conduct a research or conduct a population. The next is collecting data from a population. So, population are used when your research question requires or when you have access to data from every member of the population. Usually, it is only straightforward to collect data from a whole population when it is small, accessible, and cooperative. So, one of my example of collecting data from a population is a high school administrator wants to analyze a final exam score of all graduating seniors to see if there is a trend. So, since they are only interested in applying their findings to the graduating seniors in the high school, they use what the whole population data set. For a larger and more dispersed population, it is often difficult and impossible to collect data from every individual. For example, every 10 years, the federal Philippines government aims to count every person living in the country using a Philippine census. This data is used to distribute funding across the nation. However, historically marginalized and low-income groups have been difficult to contact, locate, and encourage participants from. Because of non-response, the population count is incomplete and biased towards some groups, which result is disproportionate funding across the country. In case like this, sampling can be used to make more precise inference about the population. The next is collecting data from a sample. When your population is large in size, geographically dispersed, or difficult to contact, it's necessary to use a sample with statistical analysis. You can use sample data or make estimates or test hypotheses about the population data. Ideally, a sample should be randomly selected and representative of the population using probability sampling methods such as simple random sampling or stratified sampling, reduces the risk of sampling bias and enhances both internal and external validity. For practical reason, researchers often use non-probability sampling methods. Non-probability samples are chosen for a specific criteria. They may be before convenient or cheaper to access. Because of non-random selection methods, any statistical references about a broader population will be weaker than with a probability sampling. So one of my example about collecting data from a sample. So you want to study political attitudes in young people. Your population is about 1,000 undergraduate students in the Philippines. Because it's not practical to collect data from all of them, you use a sample of 300 undergraduate volunteers from 3 Dutch universities. This is the group who will complete your online survey.
Good day, I am Roseanne Calusin and now let's discuss about reasons for sampling. First is necessity. Sometimes it's simply not possible to study the whole population due to its size and inaccessibility. Second is the practicality. It's easier and more efficient to collect data from a sample. Third is cost effectiveness. There are fewer participants, laboratory equipment, and researcher costs involved. And last, manageability. Storing and running statistical analysis on smaller datasets is easier and reliable. Let's talk about population parameter and sampling statistic this time. When you collect data from a population or sample, there are various measurements and numbers you can calculate from the data. A parameter is a measure that describes the whole population. A statistic differs from population parameter. You can use estimation or hypothesis testing to estimate how likely it is that a sample statistic differs from the population parameter. Sampling error. A sampling error is the difference between a population parameter and a sampled statistic. In your study, the sampling error is the difference between the mean political attitude rating of your sample of undergraduate students in Netherlands. It happens even when you use randomly selected sample. This is because random samples are not identical to the population in terms of numerical measurements like means and standard deviations. And because the aim of the scientific research is to generalize findings from the sample to the population, you want the sampling error to be low. You can reduce sampling error by increasing the sample size.
Our video presentation, I hope you learned something about our topic population and samplings. Thank you.